do we expect our husband to meet our needs if we ourselves don't know what those needs are? Right? I mean, it's kind of funny. Like after I said it, you're like, oh, that's a good point, Leah. That's pretty good. Okay, because if, as we discussed last week, and we're going to cover today's Q&A. So people are going to be calling in and asking questions, and I have a list of emails and whatever of people sent in questions. The question is, if I were to give out a big fat notebook, a spiral notebook, and I were to say to you, okay, write down everything that you want, okay? And you wrote, you'd say, okay, I want my husband to be nicer to me. I want him to not, interrupt me so much. I want him to listen to what I'm saying. I want him to stop texting while he's talking to me. I want him to, to buy me this. I want him to, all the things that you want from your husband. Wives will go on page after page after page after page of what they want. Now, I'm going to hand everybody an index card and say, okay, write me down what you need. And people are not going to be able to fill that out. I've tried it, believe me, okay? I don't know, Leah. So here's the homework from last week, was to go through your list, write down everything you want, and start crossing out things on that notebook to get down to really what you need, the most deepest desires that you have. If those are met, all the millions of wants that you and I have fade in the background. If you've got your needs met, you're not so upset that he didn't do everything you want of him, because you're getting some of your deepest needs met. So that's what we're covering today. Today we're talking about how do you know, and what is it again, Sarit?
Is knowing your needs is the first step to getting them met.
Knowing your needs is the first step. That's what we got to do. So we got to figure out our needs. Okay, we have a very lovely lady on the line who called in and asked this question. Better. Okay, so go ahead.
Oh, good. Okay, so last week you were talking about how you need to prioritize your needs by figuring out a list of what your needs are, and then basically if you expect that just those needs are going to be met, then it makes it a lot easier, and you're not kind of expecting the whole entire world, right?
You heard me exactly right, and that's exactly the right process to get clarity on what your needs are, and to, more importantly, make sure your husband can meet those needs. Okay, so good. You're with you so far.
Okay, fantastic. So my problem is, I feel like I can't make a list of just 10 needs or just 8 needs. I can't. I need to have at least 100 things on there, minimum. Like start right from the very beginning, and I need to have please don't snore so I can get a good night's sleep, and then all the way till 9 p.m. Oh, I forgot. Can you bring Negavossa to the room because I forgot to set it up before I went to bed?
I hear.
And
wow.
I feel like just limiting myself to 10 needs is kind of a little bit. I feel like it's not really practical. I just have so many little things I feel like I'm not really being selfish or stubborn or anything like that. I'm just saying, oh no, this is kind of what I just need, and this is just what I need so that I'm able to get through my day, and I'm busy doing things for him as well, and I don't know.
So what, if you take a look at what's a realistic explanation, does that help you at all? Like, what's realistic? Is it realistic to ask him to stop snoring while he's sleeping? You're right. I mean, like, you're sure he's doing it volitionally trying to snore to keep you up, I'm sure, right?
Throw a pillow at him.
Throw a pillow at him.
It really works.
It really works, he says. So, can you go through your list and, knock out things that are a little bit not realistic? Would that help you narrow it down?
The thing is that when you say make a list, it's too overwhelming for me. I haven't even started making a list because I feel like, oh, I'm going to make a list and it's just going to go on to infinity. Like, I don't know. You're saying, oh, priorities are the things that are really, really important. And I'm saying, I don't know. There are obviously there are certain things that are very important to me. And those are really needs. Like, I do know that one of my needs is I need my husband to come home and ask me about my day. I just kind of have to get it all off my chest. I need him to listen to me for 5 minutes, and then he can go do whatever he's doing. And
She says 5 minutes. Ha ha ha. 5 minutes. I think a little bit more than that. I know myself. I'm the same. Okay, whatever.
You know,
Until it's out,
I'm being
right?
very kind to myself.
Okay. There, it's good. No, I'm just relating very much. I'm sure all of the women who are listening relate exactly to that. It's like it's not 5 minutes wouldn't even begin to be. Okay, yeah. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So you're saying. So you know that that's a need of yours.
So I know that that's a need, but then I feel like if you want me to make a list of all the things that I need, okay, fine. So that would probably be somewhere up at the top. But I'm saying, but then I don't know how to break the other things down. If it doesn't get done, I get frustrated and upset. And I'm not very selfish. The things that I'm asking for, I feel like are very reasonable things. I'm not asking him to do the entire world for me, but at the same time, he's at work for most of the day and he comes home and I'm exhausted and things are happening and tons of things going on. And then, like, there's just, I feel like the things that I'm asking, I don't know, I'm repeating myself, but I wouldn't even know where to start with my list. What is it?
Okay,
what is
so
it need? Like,
so
what about the things that I want? What about chocolate?
him providing each other. So here's the thing: is it all of this whole subject matter is very overwhelming from a day-to-day perspective. It's just so overwhelming, and needs feel so urgent when you have them. The only way out of this situation is to, rather than doing it all with your heart and trying to figure it out and trying to manage it and manage the emotions that go with it, is to get it on paper. The logistics. Now, some people are paper people, and some people aren't paper people. Okay, so I realize for some people this is more of a stretch, but rather than just being a big mush in your mind, if you actually were to write these things down, then when you wrote down, stop snoring, instead of it being an emotional thing like, I wish he would stop snoring, you'd see it on paper and you'd say, oh, you know what? Gee, a lot of women, don't even, there are people from who I grew up with who aren't even married yet. There are people in their 30s and 40s not even married yet. Maybe I'll put up with the snoring. You know what I'm saying? Like it just puts it in perspective. And believe me, I understand the aggravation in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, earplugs and whatever you have to do. But the problem is that until you pour everything out of your heart onto a piece of paper, it's all bottled up in your mind, in your heart. It's just jam, a big jam, and you can't really sort it out. And in order to ratchet down the pressure on yourself and ratchet the pressure on making demands of your husband, if you write them all down, I promise you, I've never had a failed, I mean, maybe there are and they didn't report it back to me, but people who do the exercise, it's a little bit of an annoying exercise, but right now you have so many things. You said that you wouldn't, even if you got to 100 or 150 or 200, you still would have more needs, more wants/needs. So until you get them on paper and start crossing them out, it just is overwhelming. So that would be my recommendation, is to try it. If you're not a person for whom writing it down is those exercises. There's a lot of people who like that. Oh, give me homework. Let me figure this out. If that doesn't work for you, then all I can suggest, if you can't do the exercise, is to think about, if I only had one thing I wanted from my husband today, what would it be? Because a lot of women come into marriage with certain expectations of their husbands that are quite unrealistic. In today's day and age, we need our husband to be to look up to him, to be our man. We need him to be our emotional sister who's going to let us, tell all our problems to. We need him to be our best friend so we can say, can you believe what happened to me today in the beauty salon or whatever it is, our demands of what we expect of our husbands are a little out of whack. I'm not sure how this came to be this way. I just know that I find it with women who I talk with, and I'm like, lady, this poor guy, could you meet the demands that you're giving to him if he had them of you? That it's a lot. And so how are we going to tone it down? The number one way is to have your own needs met. If your needs are met, I promise you, if your really deep needs are met, and this is why it's very important to sort of figure out what your needs are and do this exercise, and to think about this and do introspection on this. If you know what your needs are and you get a few of them met, a lot of the things you wished your husband would do won't matter to you as much. I'm not saying they'll go away. I'm not saying a guarantee everything will float away off into the distance. But I am saying that if you have your priorities straight, they will be less. And over time, when you have your needs met more and more and more, they will be less and less and less, and they will look frivolous to you. But the only way you're going to see them as frivolous is if you've written them down.
She'll also feel that they're less aggravating. For example, just the snoring. I'm a very service-oriented person. So when my husband, I find when he meets my needs in the service area, where if I need something done and he does it, and especially like before he comes home from work and he's had a long day, but he does something that I need done and he gets it done before I go to bed, and I can't go to sleep because it's on my head and it's not going to let me go to sleep. And the minute he does it, so when I go to bed and he's snoring next to me, it's like suddenly I still hear him snoring, but it doesn't bother me as much, and I could forgive it a little bit because I'm happier.
Satiated.
Yeah. I feel
Wow.
better. I feel like he did something special for me, so I give him a little bit more. I let him slide on something. So I think that part she'll
really
find.
crucial. Yeah, very crucial. Very good question. Did that answer it for you?
Yeah, I think so. One other thing that I'm a little curious about, like strictly definition-wise, what is the difference between a want and a need? Like a need for sure is something that you need and you're not going to really be able to go on without it, but isn't that technically something you want? And let's say theoretically, I really need coffee because it helps me get through my day and it keeps me awake and keeps me going. Like asking, like needing coffee, is that like a need or a want?
So that's,
you know what I mean? Like where exactly are you drawing the difference?
So a need, the way I've defined it, which is just sort of a help, is needs are necessities and wants are wishes. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate between the two. This isn't an easy slam dunk black and white process. It's kind of like there's shades of gray, and again, things are moving in and out of needs to want. There's something that you desperately need from your husband. You need him to be there for you. You're feeling emotionally weak. Your boss has been so debilitating to you, but you still need the job, and you're working there, and you're feeling emotionally weak. And in times like that, you really need your husband to be so sympathetic to you for this month or two. Then the job quits. You get a different job. Your boss is saying how wonderful you are. You feel bolstered in that. And so something that before was a really, really, heavy duty need now gets dropped, a little bit lower on the scale. So this is a moving target, which makes our job a lot harder. But I will tell you, here's the thing. When you have in your head the distinction between needs and wants, you can be in the moment. You can say, why isn't, I told him to pick up the such and such, and he got home and he didn't have it. I need the milk, let's say, right? And you're so upset, and in the moment you need that milk. Whereas if you understand the difference between needs and wants, and you sit there and say, maybe that's just a want. You know what? We're going to have almond milk. Okay, the kids are going to have a fit. Let's say use rice milk for baking, and kids are, I don't want that in my cereal. What is that? Whatever. Maybe you have to pour the rice milk into the regular milk jar and pretend. I don't know. Don't tell anybody I said that. We're only honest in this world. No, but I'm just saying, whatever you have to do. But something else will come up to your mind because you're not so. I need this. I need this. You'll be able to look at it and say, wait, is this a want? That alone, the ability to see something as maybe less important than it is, even though it feels so strong, that's worth its weight in gold. But again, the more work you put into this, the more you try and analyze it and write it down and think about it. Even if you're not going to write it down, maybe if you, make a list in a notebook, maybe you get an app and record your voice of saying things, but something that will jog your memory switch your mind from going, I have 100 needs. No, actually, you probably only have about 8 or 10 or 12 needs. The rest are I'm going to relegate to wants. Even if I think they're needs, I'm going to put them at wants. And here's why this is so crucial. As we have talked about a lot in here, the husband is the giver and the wife is the receiver. We know this from many, many sources. There's our 3,000-year-old tradition. The husband is the giver, the wife is the receiver. When we are demanding from our husband all day long and never receiving, we're just, like he didn't do this. There's this perennial dissatisfaction a wife has about to her husband for not meeting her needs. So he is giving and giving and giving and giving. She's not receiving. And he feels like, what's the point? And a lot of women say, my husband's just kind of given up. Like I feel like he's not even up on the mat anymore. Something's wrong with him. Maybe. But maybe something's wrong with the receiving. And so he's given up hope. Once a woman starts receiving and saying, okay, this is going to be enough for me, and receiving it and thanking and showing appreciation for it, once that is done, his motivation to give and do more and be there more and emotionally in every which way, he was created on this planet Earth to give to you. That's why he was born in the first place. There's other sources he's born for other reasons as well, but it's certainly true that one of the main reasons he was put on this earth is to give to you. And when he can't do that, he walks around half a man. Like his whole enthusiasm for life is half thrown out the window. So this is not just a process in terms of you being able to understand your own needs. That's step one. But step two is that gives your husband the ability to give more to you receiving more from him. And there's the level of joy can expand in the marriage.
We have a caller on the line who I don't know if they're going to be commenting to this or have their own question on this. So we're just going to have them. Caller on the line. You're unmuted, so you can speak.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Definitely.
You can stay on the line.
First of all, hi, Mrs. Richeimer. This is Ahuva.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for your phone call. Thank you so much for your emails and everything. Very appreciated.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to make a comment because, I could relate to the last person who asked the question, and just to give a mundane example of how I've been helped by this. It just occurred to me I realized that my list, which I'm kind of doing more intuitively, not sitting down and write it all down. I might come to do it more specifically, but it doesn't. I realize it doesn't have to be set in stone. I can change my list, and I can kind of it's been so helpful, but I kind of have a more of a playful attitude about it, and just to give an example of how this was really helpful. For instance, I used to think that I needed my husband to bring me flowers for Shabbos, and I often would be disappointed if he didn't. And
are you hearing her?
Yeah.
She's in. You can. Can you also hear her?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
okay,
she's
good.
on.
Good. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I used to be kind of bummed out again and again. Gosh, other people get flowers. It's so nice for Shabbos, and he doesn't. And then this kind of helps kind of crystallize. I don't really care. It's not. I don't consider that a need at all. And then just to give an example today, it's right before Pesach. The bills are high. And I asked my husband when he was going to the store if he would pick up this gluten-free dessert that I like a lot. I'm not even gluten-free. I can eat gluten, but I like this one gluten-free dessert. It costs twice as much because it's gluten-free. But I had in mind, I didn't really care. He kind of made a joke about how expensive it was, and I said, okay, whatever, you don't have to get it. I integrated it it doesn't really matter. And I thought to myself, if he doesn't get it, I'll just get it later myself. He doesn't even have to know. And he came home and he did buy it, and I really thanked him for it. And I just wanted to share that I've been helped so much by seeing that even if I narrow down some of my needs, I can change it tomorrow. And it's also not that it's kind of saying I can still try to seek out getting my wants met, But like I'm not going to get all bent out. I'm learning how to not get all bent out of shape if it doesn't get met. It's more the needs that are just really
So
important
that's
to me.
fantastic. I want to highlight that in case the listeners can't hear, because it's so gorgeous what she's saying. Is that she's much more chilled about getting her needs met. It's not like this urgent whatever. Am I paraphrasing you correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for the take home message here is that you may or may not be able to exactly pin down your needs, but which I do still recommend. But what it does is, in the heat of the moment, when you're upset about something, that he's not doing something that you wanted him to do, there's not this sadness in you, and worse, there's not this disapproval, like, you bad boy, you didn't do what I wanted you to do. There's not this, he knows he's upset you, you know you've upset you, and now that he's upset you. And so now there's a whole situation going on where you feel like there's just tension in the house. It's just tension and disappointment. And if later on he comes in and he wants to chat with you about something, oh, you can't believe what happened today, and then he realizes you're giving him that look because he disappointed you, and then he walks into the room to tell you a funny story. He sees the look on your face that you're giving him because you're upset about not getting a need met that wasn't really a need, it was really a want. So he says, forget it, and he leaves the room. And then he goes and he's texting and he's on his computer the whole night, and you're wondering what happened. The whole tension can be ratcheted down if we let our husband give and we receive it. And the key to that, to start that whole ball rolling, is to understand your own needs and let the wants go. Does it make sense?
Yeah. No, and Ahuva, I find like maybe for her, she was saying how she does her needs and her wants sort of organically in her head. She's not writing it down. And it might be that if she writes it down, it won't change so much and so quickly. So she'll actually see that many of her needs are being met. Because right now, for example, she thought her need was getting flowers every Shabbos. If she had written it down and there was so many others there, and then her needs were so clearly listed, when that Friday came along and she didn't get the flowers, she can open up that book and be like, well, he didn't bring me the flowers, but he brought me something else that I wanted, and we did that. He met another need. Right now, it's just
a big float.
It's floating, and because it's floating, until I sat and wrote it down, it was all like I was thinking, well, he's not meeting my needs, when it wasn't true. He was, but I didn't see it because I had so many needs.
Right, and I will tell you something that's gorgeous, and this is for both of you who are on the line right now, is that there is something so powerful and pleasurable about taking a black marker and crossing Shabbos flowers off that list. It's kind of like liberating. It's kind of like, yep, I'm giving up my right to be upset about this. And he can feel it. When there's less demands on your husband, he feels way more motivated to do the things you really, really need. Make sense? It's great. Do either of you have any more questions? I'll go to a question from an email. Any other comments or questions from you ladies? Thank you very much for being on. Okay, good.
I'm just wondering, is it logical to say, oh, let's say I only have 5 or 6 needs that are there on a permanent basis? Like, for example, I was saying before, I need my husband to come home and just talk to me for 5 minutes, not get distracted by other things. But is it logical to say, oh, but like, I also have a Friday need, and my Friday need is that if Shabbos comes in late, I have to take a nap. Otherwise, I'm not functioning. So my Friday need is he needs to come home and take care of the kids so I can take a nap.
What's your question? Is that a need or is that a want? I'm not sure your question.
My question is, does that go onto my needs list? Because it's not really something that I'm saying it's not like an ongoing thing, like, oh, like listening to me every day for 5 minutes. It's more like a one-time occurrence occasionally. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I'm saying, like, I don't really. Sorry, I'm not making my point very clear.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
Things that are Friday is even too often. Things that are like one-time occasions and one-time needs and just.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Do those also go on my needs list?
That's a fantastic question. You understand the question, Sarit?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically saying it's kind of like putting them in time. I would put that under a broader category of, something like when I need extra TLC, that would be under the extra TLC or something like that, in terms of watching the kids or whatever like that. It doesn't it goes under a broader category of, when I need self-care, I need him to be there for me to help.
Right, which is a need, but it's more broad than just a specific
That's
instance.
right. That's exactly right. It's kind of like
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a category. So your needs can certainly be under categories, unless you don't put all 100 needs under one category. You have to be really careful with yourself. The thing is, it's kind of like the less needs you can get on your list, the more your husband can satisfy them, and the better the relationship's going to be, the closer, the less resentment, the less anger, the less disappointing you. So it's kind of like you're really working to keep it as little as possible. This isn't a thing of how much can we cram in there so that he, again, just the level of stress, the level of strain on the relationship. And again, his feeling like he's not fulfilling his purpose in life, which is to take care of you. That's devastating for a guy. It's devastating. And here's the thing, that'll affect his ability to bring in money. It'll affect his ability to grow spiritually. It'll affect his ability to maximize his potential as a man and as a person, as a human being. If he just feels like he's disappointing his wife, he feels, whatever else he can succeed at. Someone can go out, do a real estate deal and bring $200,000 into the thing. If his wife's like, oh, that's all you brought in, I mean, whatever. Nobody would say that, but I'm just saying that there's a whatever he can succeed in his life, that's not as deep and powerful to him as making his wife happy. And yet, if you stop any woman on the street and ask her, or ask any man, do you feel like you're disappointment to your wife? They'll say, oh, yeah, sure. Of course I disappoint her. I don't do everything I should be doing. Yeah, she's perennially disappointed in me. And that's so sad. That's so sad when the thing they want more than anything in the whole world is to feel like their wife is she's taken care of. They bounce off to work. They do whatever they have to do. They interact with whoever they need to interact with, knowing that their home is secure. There was a big rabbi who was asked something like, who's walking somewhere and someone said to him, are you going home? Maybe offering him a lift or something. I'm messing up the story a little bit, but the point is beautiful. Are you on your way home? And he said, no, my wife died 6 years ago. I don't have a home. I'm going to my house. It's like, you know what I mean? Like his wife is his home. Was his home, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like we're their home. They don't have a house. They don't live in a house. They live in a home or an apartment, whatever it is. They live in a home because we provide that for him. And when we don't give them that satisfaction of being happy, of being content with what they're giving us, they feel like they're running on an empty gas tank.
It's so interesting that she mentioned those sporadic needs that are not daily, but come, let's say, weekly on Shabbos or come monthly. That where do you put them and how do they fit in? But it's interesting that when I was just thinking about it, when some of those needs are met, sometimes they really hold you off for a long time, making you feel bolstered in his love and your marriage. I know for me, monthly, it's important when I have my special day that day is my day to get ready and to prepare. I don't want to be worrying about getting dinner for the kids and worrying about putting the kids to bed. And so when I communicated that to him, that on this day, I would love you to just, make it special for me so that when I'm preparing myself and I'm getting ready for us, that I should feel like it's a special time. And and when he internalized that and took that as a real need of mine, even though it was only happening monthly, but when he took that as a real need and he said, would come home early and would make sure that he was taking care of dinner time and bedtime and let me go and relax and enjoy myself, the whole rest of the week even 2 weeks after, I would just, I
Feel
always,
taken care
that was in there, that sat, and that held me for a very long time, that feeling of he really took care of a need of mine, even though it's not a
gorgeous.
daily.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Good. What else? What else you got for us, girls? Yeah, she's still on the line.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions, or I'll go to an email.
I'm just wondering, like, when asking for appreciation, would you consider that like one of the things a woman chooses is getting her needs met?
Sure. So the question is getting appreciation a need of a woman? And for sure, we're going to do a whole section on appreciation. You're going to be floored and blown away once we start covering that. And I know you probably read a little bit ahead in the book. That's fine, about appreciation, because it's really crucial to a woman's ability to function in this world. If a woman is not appreciated, everything that she does is done with resentment. It's just like, whereas if she's appreciated, she can work till 3 a.m. doing all the extra work. So it's very crucial to a woman's ability to breathe oxygen and to be satisfied in her life and to be happy in her life to get the appreciation that she needs. And it's very tough. And it's hard to teach a husband how to do that. We're going to learn it's actually on the obligation of the woman to do that, to get the appreciation she needs. We'll do a whole study on that. I mean, a whole class on that. A couple of classes too, actually. But if you want to put it down on your needs list right now, that's perfectly appropriate. It's definitely a need of a woman. It's a good question. Okay, I'm going to go right to an email question that came in, and that is, what if one of my needs, what if, what we can hear in the background, can you put yourself on mute?
We already muted them.
Okay. Mute,
Mute,
whatever. Okay. What if one of my needs is to have my husband more on board with mitzvahs when he's not holding where I want him to be, like basic mitzvahs like daily tefillin and minyan, and is perhaps even struggling, and I guess he's perhaps even struggling with basic emunah. Should I be a good listener to him if he should I be a good listener to him if he decides to open about this religiosity? So, the question basically is, what if a woman's need is for her husband to be more religious than he is? Okay. Brilliant question. Very good question. Very clear question. The answer is a little bit, there's good news and there's bad news. Okay. So the good news is that, how do you say beeswax in none of your beeswax in polite terms? Okay, let's see now. So a husband's religiosity, and I touched upon this a little last week, a husband's religiosity and where he's holding, and is he going to minyan 3 times a day, and is he praying, and is he, that's really his business between him and God, the husband and God. It's not a thing a wife should have anything to do with. And when I said mind your own beeswax, it's a little bit, I'm saying it kind of funny, but it actually happens to be true. It's not a wife's business what his relationship with God is any more than what your relationship to God is for him. Can you imagine if he came to you and said, "Hey, did you pray this morning? Hey, what happened? Obligations are different between a man and a woman, or whatever." Or let's say, is this kosher what you are preparing here? Well, that's a little different because then he's eating it. Okay, I'm not even going to go there. What I am saying about the woman interfering with her relationships with her husband and God, it's not her business. The only thing that she can do, and this is very crucial to understand, while she can't put her fingers in and start working with him on it, she can do things that encourage him to do it. I had one woman, she said, "Yeah, I wake my husband up every morning to go, and he doesn't. He keeps rolling over, and then I come back in, and I tell him, 'Hey, you told me last night you wanted me to wake you up for this,' and he won't, and whatever." And I said, "So you've become his policeman?" And she goes, Yeah, exactly." I said, "Do you like the role of policeman?" And she's like, "No." "Does he like you being the role of policeman?" "No." This is not the appropriate use of wife's encouragement to her husband. It's very, very clear. I have many sources for this. You can look them up in Marriage Secrets. The key is, if a woman wants her husband to grow in his learning, in his praying, in his stature as a spiritual being, there's only one thing that the woman can do that is powerful track record of success, and that is to be the receiver for his spirituality. So what does that mean? That means that if your husband is at the Shabbos table and he's giving over some words of Torah, okay, you should be doing one of two things. Either listening to his Devar Torah or evacuating the house because it's on fire. Okay, one of those two things, meaning there's no excuse. Oh, the kid needs you to tie their shoe. The water is running in the other room, and it's wasting water. Let the water waste. Okay, if it's going to flood and whatever. But I'm just saying there should be nothing that you're doing. This thing isn't sitting up right. Is that going to be okay? You can hear? Okay? Yeah. I don't know. Okay, keep falling down. There's nothing you should be doing besides listening to his Devar Torah. Now, why would this make any difference? Like, Leah, are you crazy? So here's why. We know the husband is the giver and the wife is the receiver. Rav Moshe Cordovero gives over all blessing, comes from Shemayim, from God, through the husband and to the wife. So if the husband is giving and the wife isn't receiving, he starts giving over some Torah, and you go in the kitchen and do the dishes, you're under the table cleaning up crumbs, you're talking to somebody else, you're eating food. I mean, eating, I guess, and listening and chewing is okay, but for the most part, if you are not there when he's giving over his Torah, it's as if he's giving and you're not receiving. Why should he give? If the wife is receiving his Torah and listening to what he's saying and listening to his spirituality and receiving it, okay, now here's where it goes. Rav Moshe Cordovero, all blessing comes from Shemayim, from God, through the husband and to the wife. So if the husband is giving over his Devar Torah and he gives it to us and we've received it, guess what? He is empty. When you empty something out, right, it creates a vacuum. Now he's sitting there. He's got an empty bucket. He's just given it to us and we've received it. He's got an empty bucket. Now he's got to turn to God to refill his bucket. It's the only way that a wife can affect her husband's relationship with God is by receiving whatever he's giving. And what that means is listening to him when he's talking, telling her anything spiritual nature. If she asks him, is this fork kosher or not kosher? And he says, yes, it's kosher. No, it's not kosher, whatever spirituality, whatever he gives over. And if he's talking and telling to someone else and she puts down whatever she's doing and she goes and listens to him tell a kid something, so like, as if she was thirsting. She's thirsting for his spirituality. If she's receiving his spirituality, he'll be accurately giving it over. He'll be empty. He'll need to get more. Okay? It's a foolproof, guaranteed way to increase your husband's spirituality. But if you become his policeman and, you didn't go to Minyan and you need to this and you need to go pray here and you need to whatever and how come you didn't do that and whatever, recipe for disaster. Things will get worse and worse and worse and worse. So to answer this caller's question or this email question is that if you want your husband to get more on board, it's really none of your business. I understand the desire. I understand the need. I understand the want. It's not your business. You can also want, the sky to be green. This is not a appropriate need. It's a demand that you're making to your husband, which is inappropriate. It's not your business. So you ask the follow-up question, should I be a good listener to him if he decides to open up about his real religiosity? And I would say 1 in 1,000 conversations like that will go well. 999 couples who had that conversation, it would not go well. So I'm not saying no, because you could be the very, very, very rare couple who could have the kind of conversation where the husband would feel comfortable telling you. But if in 999 out of 1,000 cases, the husband saying, listen, the reason I'm struggling with my going to minyan is because when I was in 7th grade, the rabbi really embarrassed me in public or something. I'm not making up. I don't know. Something caused him. I don't want to be hard on rabbis, but I'm just saying there was something that happened, some incident. Maybe my best friend, told me he was embarrassed. It wasn't even really true. Whatever it was, whatever reason that they have in their mind, they may not even know, but whatever reason they have in their mind for it, if they tell it to you, you're going to sit there and say, well, you should do this, you should do that, you should call that person, you should call the friend who told it to you, you should, you should go see somebody about this. You're going to be trying to fix them, and that feels awful. When you're trying to deal with an issue or you're trying to grow in an issue, to have someone give you advice, unasked for advice on what you should do and how you should handle it feels awful. We all know that from personal experience. I don't even need to convince you. So I really doubt that would go well. It could be if he spoke with his rabbi or somebody else, his brother, a friend, that might go well. And you might orchestrate that. You might, it's very tricky because he'll feel like you're going behind his back on something. So these things are very, 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 have to be handled very carefully. But anyway, the answer to that question is I would not approach speaking to him about it. If he speaks to you about it, then yeah, you can listen. But I doubt he will, because he knows the minute you try and grow and your spouse knows about it and they start pushing you on it, it's a very unpleasant feeling. Okay. One last thing that the wife can do in order to increase the husband's spirituality, one was to listen to anything he says religiously. And the other is, as we're working here, we're working on needs, we're going to work on appreciation, we're going to work on communication, we're going to work on anger, we're going to work on harmony, we're going to be working on a lot of very crucial, powerful tools. And as you start to get closer to your husband and be more receiving of him and more loving toward him and so forth, his contentment in life will, God willing, really, really go up, and so will yours. And in that atmosphere of increased contentment, you'll be surprised how much that can improve somebody's relationship with God. Okay, very good. Let's go on to the next question. Ladies, anyone on the call who'd like to chime in, ask a question, comment?
*6.
Hit *6. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question. Okay, so do you have any input regarding seeing my husband's greatness and treating him with respect after wearing him down over the years? I know he feels discouraged, like maybe he felt if he can't match up, so he's just given up. So we covered this a little bit. Yeah, seeing his some guidance. Sarit, you had something you wanted to say? No. Okay. It's okay. All right. So the issue is that, okay, we're going to get to this down the road. We're doing
Q&A queue is cleared.
Okay. Oh, yeah, they couldn't get in. Okay, so people can call in *6 if you have the question. So the issue is that in terms of treating your husband with respect, we're going to cover this issue in great depth because it's sort of, if you look in the sources, there's a lot that talks about respect. Your husband should respect his wife. A wife should respect his husband. There's a lot going there, but I'm just going to give you like a standing on one foot version of it that many, many people think, and it's almost common knowledge. Like I'm going to say this, I'm going to say, of course, respect is earned. Somebody's got to earn your respect. Like, are you kidding? You earn your respect. You respect somebody who earns your respect. Fine. Here's the newsflash. Respect is granted, never earned. Respect is granted, never earned. So what do I mean by that? It means that unless you respect your husband to begin with and let him rise to the occasion to earn that respect, he's not going to spontaneously be respectable. And many women, they're looking for this big king to walk through the door and then they'll respect him. It's your respect of him that makes him a king. And this is borne out. This is in our sources. Again, the reason I say sources like this is because I have them 220 in here, but I don't have them off I wished I was that smart that I could just rattle off whatever, but I know that there's about 4 different sources in there about respect that say this specific thing. So to answer the question is treating him, how to see his great qualities and respect him. So seeing his great qualities and respecting him, a lot of people, we'll get to a place where in the book where we talk about writing down appreciation notebook, things you appreciate about your husband that really alters a woman's reality, because instead of being constantly feeling like the glass is half empty, she feels like it's half full because she's writing down what she appreciates about him. And so that can really help. It can help you with appreciation of your husband and respect of your husband. The most important thing here, it says, I know he feels discouraged, like maybe he can't match up, so he's just given up. So here's whoever wrote this email in and is listening in on the call, here's my homework for you, individually and anyone else who wants to take it on, is once you start showing your appreciation to your husband for what he does for you, he'll have an entire shift in his desire to please you and to do things for you. So try that. Try this at home. Come back and report to us. Okay.
It's not gonna. I think I was in her same boat. I don't think it changes overnight. I think it takes, sadly, years when you've sort of knocked them down for so many years, and now you're working on your marriage and you're working on yourself and you're trying to do it right, but they instinctively, it's like the puppy who's used to a certain reaction, or anyone who's expecting a certain reaction.
Right.
They don't always see that you're making that change, and you really have to just keep plugging at it, because it's not easy. I totally know that the emailer's sort of it's discouraging, and it's sad when you know that you're trying so hard to change and rectify what you did wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not
an overnight thing. But the thing is that,
So
but you can probably corroborate me on this, that it will slowly improve.
Yeah,
you probably will see a little bit, not this huge
but
shift.
you took years of knocking down. It's gonna take time. So she shouldn't feel discouraged. It does happen, but I'm still working on it.
Yeah, there you go.
And I've been in this class almost 3 years.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, very good. Okay, good. So I'm going to go on to the next question. Unless there's any caller who wants to come in with a question.
Yeah, we have, I think, one more question, and then we're...
Okay, you mean
then
on the...
No, meaning we have time for probably one more.
One more? Oh,
yeah.
I had 2.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll try and do them quickly. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have like 7, but these 2 I really want to cover today.
Because it'd be great. We can... plan another
Q&A,
which
all right.
would be great.
So the question is, what if you have certain emotional needs, but based on his character, your husband is not able to provide for this need? Good question, right?
Yeah.
What if you need something, you need him to be coddling when he's not, or you need him to, be supportive, and he's just doesn't have that in his personality? So this is a little bit of a complicated question, because either... by the post office, God, the post office can make a mistake. God does not make a mistake. So why would God give you somebody who can't fill your need, right? It's a good question, right? So what that means is one of 2 things. It means either you're wrong about what your need is, or your husband really is capable and you're not giving him a fair shot at providing that for him. So when the question you need to ask yourself, the person who asked the question, and if you are on the call and you're the one who asked this question, I'd love for you to hit *6 and clarify what you meant here. But if you, so I'm not sure exactly what the need is that he's not meeting, but I would look back in your own self and see whether that need is a real need, whether it's, it's really a want, whether your expectations of who your husband should be are just a little bit of out of whack. So without knowing exactly what that need is that's not being met, it's a little hard to answer it, but just know God didn't give you the wrong husband. So if he's not meeting your need, it's either not a need, or your husband, can be trained in that. And that is a whole other issue, which is once you understand what your need is. I'm going to make one up now. Sari, can you make one up? You can hear the typing. I don't know if, you're Facebook
okay.
people.
Yeah.
Okay, she's talking to
Yeah,
Facebook people. Okay. One of the, I have a different keyboard that doesn't make so much noise. One of the, let's just say that the emotional need you have is, when you're overwhelmed and feeling frustrated or whatever, he walks in and he says, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? And really emotionally, you need him to walk in and say, oh, I'm so sorry for all that you're having to deal with. You're such a wonderful wife. Okay. So you have an emotional need to just be patted on the back. And it looks like you have a husband who totally doesn't get it. He's just coming and piling on the stress and the pressure. Is that a good example of? Okay, fine. So now, what does that mean? Here you have a need and he can't match it. So it either means, when you get overwhelmed, your best thing to do is to hibernate and to say, I'm totally overwhelmed and stressed out right now, so I just need some space. So don't, maybe don't come in the room for 15 minutes while I'm making a list and getting it all out on my head, or let me make 15 phone calls to call all the people who need to come to the event on time, and then I can talk to you. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Or maybe a conversation needs to be, when you both are well fed and well rested, and you say, listen, I want to talk to you about something. There are times in my life, I think I take on too much. I think I've got too much going on in my life. My kids are little and my mom needs me and my, whatever. And I'm just running. When I get a feeling of being overwhelmed, and you come in and you say, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? It's upsetting to me. What can we do differently? So, this is a matter of communication. What can we do differently? And he'll say, well, I'm sorry, but I need to know if those things are done. And you're like, how about this? How about when I'm feeling overwhelmed, they say, oh, time out. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. So can all the things you want to ask me, can you write them down on a piece of paper and hand it to me, or text them to me, or come back tomorrow, or come back in an hour, or whatever? And he'll be like, well, why should I? Come on, I've got a busy life. When I see you, I want to tell you the things. And you're like, okay, but the ramifications of you doing that it makes me more stressed out, not less stressed out. And that's not good for me. It's not good for you. And they'll be like, oh, okay. All right, I can write them on a piece of paper or whatever. You come up, brainstorm solutions. It could be that you come back in 5 minutes, come back in 10 minutes, but again, it's a function of communication. If you have a need and your husband, you feel he's not capable of meeting that need, that's incorrect. Either the need needs to change, you've got it wrong, or the communication needs to be so that he can hear it. One of those two things, but it's not a lost cause.
Right.
Okay.
So Sarah on Facebook wrote, maybe another possibility is that the wife is meant to learn to live without that need being satisfied.
That's very good, Sarah, 100%. But also, if that's really, 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 she's done the homework, and it really is one of her needs, it's really one of her top needs or whatever, then she can communicate it, hopefully, in a way that her husband can get it. Or she needs to really examine, if I had all these, let's say she had 8 things that were her needs, and it was one of them, and it really was one of them, but she was getting the other 7, then maybe she'd be more chilled about it. So it's a very good point that she's making. Did she have another comment?
No, but I think that's, you sort of said that same concept, meaning that not that she's learning to live without the need, but she may need to
Put
shift.
it in perspective. Right.
Meaning her need may be, maybe she's asking her husband to be someone that he really can't be. It's like asking someone who can walk to walk. Like, you have to make sure that that is something that you're not expecting.
Right. And here's the guarantee. If you, so you say, oh, he can't, that's my number one need. he can't match it. So he's got, people immediately go to, he's not the right guy. I married the wrong. No. If you stood under the chuppah wedding canopy with that guy, you got a rubber stamp from God. You're married the right guy. We will go there deeper and talk more about that in the future, but you should just know. And we covered it in some of the other, you can look at the old shows. But the issue is that because we covered it in depth, the issue is that, just like class number 3, one of the Facebook shows, I think 3 or 4, something like that. Did I marry the wrong guy? So we'll watch that show if you feel that way. But I'm just saying, you can be guaranteed it's one of those two things. Either the wife is miscalculating what her real true need is, and that need could be matched. Her mother could do that for her sister, her best friend. Somebody else could match that need, and has expectations of her husband that are unrealistic, or she's asking the wrong guy, or she hasn't communicated in a way he can hear it, or he can do it, but he just, he needs time to ease into being able to do it. So a lot of different stuff going on. Lot of, you can see there's a lot of depth to this topic, but the one thing is for sure, once a woman has more clarity on what her needs are, not only is she more content, but her husband has a chance at making her happy, which is what he wants more than anything in the world.